Three, two. Hello, and welcome to this free training course on 4G for IoT. In this section, we're going to introduce the course, the content, and most importantly, the purpose. Um, we spent many, many hours in the production of this course because um, much of the resources online around this subject matter are highly academic um, and not practical enough. There are lots of people with lots of challenges in this subject matter, and this is designed to be highly practical, um, partially technical because it is the subject matter is technical, but also commercial as well. You can't, for the people we work with, you need to understand um, the consequences and the options with technology um, to really for it to be meaningful. So, without further ado, let's step through. So, it's split into two halves. We'll take a short break in the middle. So why 4G will dominate IoT for the next decade and beyond. I think this is a framing of a reality that you won't hear elsewhere. There's many reasons for that: technical, marketing, political, strategic. But I think it's really important you hear that this version of it. Then we're going to dive straight into how 4G works. We're going to look, and then again, once we've looked at the basics of 4G, we're going to look straight into the air interface. So this is where much of the problems happen. It's amazing what you can get from it, but it's also a little bit fragile. So for that. Another big challenge in IoT is roaming SIMs or multi-network SIMs. Let's just get straight to the heart of that. Section 2, designing 4G. So, chapter 1. Why are we doing this? Why are we looking at this course? Why are you investing your time? And why 4G will dominate IoT for the next decade and beyond. So, this is an estimate. So that's the most important thing to say. This isn't absolute, but it should give you a feel, again, for why we have chosen this subject matter and why we believe it's really important. If you're working even loosely in IoT or industry, that the lens through which this course studies the subject matter, I think, is extremely important. So just from that graph, you can see the importance of 4G. And you can say that if you remove 4G globally, you would impact more devices, more use cases, and more geographies than any other technology. So not that we really need a justification to study this. That is why we're doing it. If you then look at other technologies, a really important narrative here is NB-IoT by number of connections looks strong, but a very large percentage was mandated in China. So that skews how strong or not the actual real world business case is for NB-IoT if you don't have a government mandate, an absolute government mandate to do something. Then you've got 5G, Cat-M, 2G and 3G. So these are cellular IoT technologies. You have other things like LoRa and Sigfox, but these things are owned and operated by mobile network operators. And because of the scale and the money they have, they will dominate almost certainly for the foreseeable future. Now, this is another framing of why 4G that is really, really important. So if we go back to the good old days of 2G, you probably had 9,600 bits per second of data. That's what you could achieve. And the simple question is, did that limit what you can do? Yes or no? Absolutely, massively. Then we got into 3G, and you could see the shift, the fact that there was packet data, that you could do much more things, walled garden environments, and that gave you these are headline data rates. So sort of up to a meg was typical in that era. And the question is, was that still limiting as to the applications you could perform? And absolutely yes. is the answer. Now, when we switch from 3G to 4G, courtesy of some pretty phenomenal technology, suddenly we're able to achieve 100 megabits per second as a headline rate, but more importantly, 10 meg down and 5 meg up. 10 megabits per second down, 5 megabits per second up, with good availability of that level of service, of that quality of service. And basically, that's when the networks no longer was the limitation. And the reality is, you see 5G is down of 1 to 20 gigabits per second. I mean, the average consumer with a smartphone couldn't care less about that. Whether they're getting 20 meg or gigabit speeds. And so it's really quite unimportant in IoT. And that's not necessarily a great thing for the telcos, because telcos have always relied on next gen technology as the thing, but the needs and wants from those next generations have to an extent gone away. So 4G is very much fit for purpose. Okay, so that was a test video. What I might do is just to do a few quick slide transitions. The most important thing here is that the 4G that we're talking about is paid for by cell phone users. And from a commercial risk point of view, it means they're very, very likely to still be there in 10 years' time, and possibly 20 years' time. And if they do change, they'll change. Now, I've highlighted battery-powered suitability. 4G is poor, NB-IoT is excellent. So this course doesn't really go into LTM or CAT-M and NB-IoT. It focuses on 4G, but that's when you should be looking at those other technologies. But bear in mind that roaming maturity and the coverage and the throughput may challenge what you can achieve. I just wanted to give a commercial view as well on networks that aren't paid for by consumers. So NB-IoT, narrowband IoT, is a relatively large deviation. It costs money for the networks to maintain NB-IoT. So two massive network operators launched NB-IoT in 2019. I think that probably should be 2017 for Docomo. Docomo shut theirs down in 2020, and last year AT&T said, we are closing down NB-IoT. Now, I believe there is the ability, certainly on AT&T, to transfer your devices to use the CAT-M or LTM service. But I would hate to think what's happened to the companies that don't have the ability to do that remotely. So I think that's just a very important commercial angle on things that aren't paid for by cell phone users and the surety of their existence into the future. So a commercial view of the market. There we go.